All right. Welcome to the stream. So what are we going to do today? Well, before we start the stream properly in a few minutes, I'll just give everyone a brief rundown of what we'll go through, and then I'll do my little intro and we'll begin properly. So what we'll be doing today is making some pixel art in a tool called Pascal, and then we're going to put it in Gamefroot to animate it. So if we go to Pascal, we just search up Pascal, we want this, pascalapp.com, and if you want to get a head start on everyone else, you could click sign in, and you can use your Google account to sign in. And here's mine, and here are some of the creations that I've made. So we'll be animating. Let's animate a character for our game today. It'll be pretty basic. Won't be anything too crazy. Here are some little test animations that I've done in the past. What else do we have? This little guy. And, oh, that's kind of cool. So just basic pixel animations. Then we got a cube, heart, TNT, a little creeper there. So we'll probably do something like a bouncing ball or a smiley face or a little stick figure. A character that you can make fairly quickly and not spend too much effort drawing, so that we can, with our limited time, put it into Gamefruit and then make a little game where we get our character running around. So let's just see if we've got some people in the stream. Cool. A few people in the stream. Okay, well, we might as well get started. Make sure you go to gamefruit.com in one tab, gamefruit.com, and then Pascal app in another, and I'll make sure I'm signed out so that I can show people how to log in. Okay, let's do our little intro. All right. Welcome to Gamefruit's Code Talk, a live digital technology stream on how to code real video games powered by real game developers. I'm Dave, and I'm your host. Today we're going to talk about making pixel art and putting it in our Gamefruit game. And we're going to be using a tool called Pascal. If you go to www.pascalapp.com, or if you just search up P-I-S-K-E-L, Pascal, then you'll find the app that we'll be using. It's totally free. You can log in with your Google account. Okay, let's jump into it, shall we? So, we'll make a little pixel art animation, something basic, something like one of these. We won't spend too much time on it. We'll spend half of our time on this. We want our stream to be about 45 minutes, so we might spend about 20 minutes on the art side of things, and then 20 minutes on the Gamefruit side of things, getting it in and programming it up. Okay. So let's first get into Pascal and get logged in. So that's pascalapp.com. I will put that in the chat just in case you need that link. Pascal app. There you go. And then we want to sign in. Sign in. Okay, now here are some of the little characters that I've made before. Today I'm thinking I might do the Gamefruit logo. Might animate that. Maybe these fruit, orange and cherry. Maybe these can be kind of like bouncing along. That might be kind of cool. Here's some of the other animations that I've done in Pascal. Pascal is a great tool, fairly easy to use. So let's jump right in. You want to make sure you're logged in. If you can't see your name up there, you're not logged in. So you can log in with your Google account. Then I'm going to go to Create Sprite. We're going to create a sprite. Okay, now we start out with this blank canvas. And we have some drawing tools here in Pascal. There's a pen tool. We can click and draw. Control Z can undo. You can also erase using the eraser, which is E. You can change the size of your pen or your eraser by clicking on these little squares up here, 4 different sizes. What else is there? Oh, there's this handy tool, vertical mirror pen. So if you're drawing, let's say you're drawing a face, the vertical mirror will mirror it around the center. So maybe that could save you a little time. Does it work with the erasers? Oh no, it doesn't. What else is there? There is the paint bucket tool. We can use that to fill in what we've drawn with a color from down here. We've got black as our primary color, so if we clicked on that, we could pick another color. I'm going to pick this orangey color, and then you click and it'll fill in any area with that color that you've chosen. What do we have here? A stroke tool. Hold shift to draw straight lines. Stroke tool. So that basically will draw a line, straight line. You might find that handy. Rectangle tool, you'll definitely find that handy. Circle tool, I could have used that to draw my orange, couldn't I? I might, in fact, I might do that. I will erase what I've got and I'll draw a circle in there. I'm going to make it outlined black. Maybe something like this. And you can use your paint bucket tool there to fill in an area. Okay, what else do we have? We got this move tool, a little hand there. You can drag things around to reposition them in your canvas here. Selection tool, what does that do? Selects everything of a certain color. So if I use this magic wand to select orange and then delete, it gets rid of all the orange in there. And then there's the rectangle selection. What does that say? Hold shift to move the content. Oh, there we go. So you could move things around. Lasso selection, kind of the same as the rectangle selection. And then there's lighten and dithering, and I think the dither will draw these two colors but alternating dots. Okay, so those are some of the tools. Color picker, that's helpful as well. You can change your color that you've got selected. Okay, so what we want to do is draw our little character and then animate it. And we'll go through that process. My orange here, I want to give it some eyes. And maybe I'll give it some cheeks. Don't know about that color. Do we want to, let's have a look at the Gamefroot logo really quick. I don't think we even need cheeks in there, do we? Okay, we do need that little leaf there. Now you obviously can draw whatever you want, but my goal here is to draw this Gamefroot logo. Get some green in there. And how about some shading? How's that looking? Yeah, it's looking alright. Okay. Might give him some highlights in the eyes as well. It's looking pretty cool. Yeah, that is looking pretty good. Okay. Now, once you've drawn your first frame of your character, you're going to want to create a copy of that first frame. Now, before I go and do this, I'll save what I've got. I want to save this animation so I don't accidentally lose it. So there's a save button over there. Click on that, and I will call this. You can call yours whatever you want. I'm going to call this my orange, and then save to your gallery. Okay, very good. Now we want to get it animating, right? That's the whole point of this. So let's make a copy of our first frame over here. We can see in our frames of animation we've just got one. So if we click duplicate, now we've got two. And just so you can see how the animation works, if I were to go and just scribble on this, you can see now there's a little preview of our animation up there. To see a more zoomed in version, we can click on that 1x and change that to 6x. Now you can see how our animation will look. Now that's not very good, is it, with the scribbling there? So I'm going to Control Z to remove that. I'm thinking the way that I want my orange to move is I kind of want it to, when it's moving along, I want it to do a bit of a bounce. So I want my orange to be flatter and wider as it bounces. So I'll cut all of that off, and the orange will kind of smush itself a little bit. So I'm going to do that really rough just to see what that looks like. And then I'll erase everything else. Now, when you're trying to get the overall feel of how something should look, it's a good idea to do it really rough and not try to be too perfect with it. You can perfect it once you've got a general idea of what you want to do. I can see as my orange squishes here a bit, I think it needs to go down a little more, and I think it also needs to go across a little bit. So I can use my move tool, my hand there, to move that across. How does that look? A little bit better. Okay. Boing. So it'll go like that. And then maybe I'll have a third frame. If I duplicate frame 1 again and drag that second frame down to number 3, maybe my third frame will be kind of stretched up so the orange is kind of leaping into the air. Something like this. Now that's kind of exaggerated, but often with animation you want to exaggerate things. If I go and fill that in with that orange, see how that looks. Maybe you can always duplicate more frames. Oh, okay, I like that a lot better. That's a lot better, isn't it? So, resting state, squished down state, resting state, and pulled up state. That works a lot better. Okay, so that's just going to be generally how I'm going to do my animation. If you were doing something like a stickman walk, maybe you would do it really rough. Over here you might have your legs and your that doesn't look so good, does it? Arms over here, and then you look at the frames and you'd think, okay, that arm needs to go back, and that one needs to come in, and these legs need to go in, and you can kind of see how you want that to animate. Now, I've chosen a pretty simple character, like a circle here, because it doesn't have a lot of moving parts, whereas a person is actually fairly tricky to animate. That might take you some time to get it looking right. But there are great guides. If you do want to look up how to animate a person, you could look up something like walk cycle guide, walk cycle guide, and these are really great. You can see the different poses that a walking human goes through in frame by frame animation. Good stuff out there if you want to check it out. But like I said, I've kept mine nice and simple. So I'm going to get rid of my stick figure there. Okay, now I will clean up these frames. And then once I've done that, we'll move on into getting our animation into Gamefroot. So we need some orange there. Clean up some of these lines. Get those eyes in. Now what I might do is copy paste these eyes and that leaf. Can I do that? I use the rectangular selection and go Control C on the eyes, Control C, Control V. Oh, that works. And then Shift to drag it away. Yes, okay, good. Shift to drag it away. Okay, now I want, when my orange goes and squishes down, I want the eyes to kind of bulge apart a little bit, so I might move those. That's just holding Shift while using the rectangle selection. Fill in those bits. That's our second frame. Looking pretty good, just needs the leaf and the shading, right? Okay. Copy that leaf. Control C. Oh, good old Shift. And Enter to put it down. Oops, I keep clicking those numbers. That turns the frame off. Okay. Bit of that shading in there. Okay, that looks good. And then as the orange goes up, like this. So let's clean up these lines. Use the eraser there. Remember that shortcut key is E. And then P for pencil and O for eyedropper. So that'll make it quite easy for me to switch between my tools. Okay. Now I'll get that leaf using my rectangle selection on one of my other frames. Control C to copy that. And then Control V to paste that in. And then I can select that, hold Shift, and drag it into place. Maybe there. Okay, that looks good. Oops, keep clicking those numbers to turn the preview off. Okay, cool. And finally, we need the eyes and the shading, don't we? Okay. In this frame, because the orange is so squished up as it is bouncing upwards, I'm going to really stretch out the eyes like this. How does that look? How does that look? I think it looks okay. Maybe they go up a little too high. A lot of this will just be experimenting, seeing what works well for you. Hmm. What if I moved everything across a little bit? Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, it might look funny if you freeze frame it on one of your frames, but we want the overall motion. That's what matters. Okay, and then I'll put some of that shading in. And I think that is it for our animation. Okay, and you could go crazy with this. You could add as many frames of animation as you want. You could have all kinds of different things happening. Sparkles, explosions, running, jumping, all of that kind of stuff. As long as you've got the animation for it in here, we can go and put it into a game in Gamefroot. So I'm going to save my animation now. I click on that little save icon there and save to my gallery. Now, what I need to do is export these images out so that I can get them into my game in Gamefroot. And the way that we'll do that is by clicking the little image icon over here that says export. Export, and I want to pick zip. So make sure you've picked zip, because this will give us a zipped up file with all of our images. And we want to change the scale to something like 4 times. 4 times. If you don't change the scale, your image will look like this, tiny. And in your game, that'll be very small. So when you're exporting from a zip, you want the scale up here to be 4 times or something about that. Maybe it could be 5 times, maybe it could be 3 times. You can even try 6 times if you want. 4 times will work well for my purposes. Okay, then we want to click download zip, and that will download into our downloads folder. And in my case, that will be on my computer, on my hard drive, in downloads. And you probably can't see that, but what I need to do now is, what if I go to my downloads folder? We can see that is my downloads there, and you can see there's my file. And you want to go to this file. You can click on the little folder icon there, and we want to unzip it. So in Windows, I'm right clicking on it and selecting extract all, and that will unzip the images. So now I have a bunch of images, which is what I want. 4 of those images. So now I'll go into Gamefroot, and in Gamefroot I am going to make sure I've logged in first. So you can click login, and you can log in with Google or Facebook, or you can put in your username and password if you've already got one, which I do. And then you can go log in. Interesting. Okay. Just going to double check that I am logged out. Yes, that's right. On a Mac, you want to double click on that zip to extract it. Okay, log in. Get my username and password in there. And there we go. I'm logged in. Okay, very good. Now we want to go and make a new blank game, and we're going to go put our animation in here. New blank game. Okay. First, I want to get some existing game assets to build my world. I'm going to draw some tiles in, and then I'm going to put my new animated character in there. So first, we want to click Explore Marketplace. And what's a good pack that we could use? We could use Nā Tākaro down the bottom there, Nā Tākaro, because that pack has tiles in it, which we want some tiles for our character to be able to run around on. So we can click Add to Your Game there, and that will put them in my sidebar. Okay, now I want to go find some tiles. Down the bottom there, I'm going to pick this grassy tile, and if I try to draw them in my level, it'll say tiles must be placed on tile map layers. So over in my layers panel, I'm going to click on that plus and click new tile map, and then I will draw up in the corner here, draw some platforms. Something like that is fine. Something for my character to go and jump on. Okay, now let's get our character in here. If I scroll up to the top and see my media sidebar here, I've got these buttons. I want to click Upload Media. Do I? No, I want to click Create Animation, because we've just made an animation, haven't we? Create Animation, that button there. And this will open the animation editor. And in here we can put our images to create our animation. So if I click Upload Sprite and then click Add Files, I want to go and find my animated orange somewhere on my computer in my Downloads folder. And there it is. Uploading those images, then I can click Done. And now I just need to click on the plus to add them in. Plus, plus, plus. And now I can click play to see how it animates. And that looks pretty good, actually. That does look pretty good. Okay. Now, what I'm actually going to do is remove some of this animation that I've just made, because I've realized my orange is going to be, in the game, it's going to be able to stand still, but it's also going to be able to walk and jump. So when it's standing still, I don't want it animating like this. I want it just looking like that, so I don't want it bouncing up and down. So to remove these frames, I can click on that minus there for each frame. So I've just got this one frame here, and that, see how that says idle? That is the name of this animation. I'm going to make another animation for running. So I'll click on plus over here, that big plus button, and I'll type run. And then okay, so now I've got an empty animation here, run. I will go and put my frames in there. And then we can see that's what the running animation looks like. So idle looks like this. Run looks like this. And what about jump? I think I might have that stretched out frame as my jump. Jump. So clicked on that plus to make a new animation, called it jump, and then I'm putting that in there. Okay. Now you could always add more frames if you wanted a more complex animation, but that's up to you. You can just go to Pascal and add more frames and draw more in there. Okay, so back in Gamefroot in our animation editor, we've got our animations ready to go. We can click save. And then I can close the animation editor. And now I can see I've got my orange there. So if I click on it and try to put it in the game, well, it gets smushed into a tile because I have my tile map layer selected and I can't add any programming on tiles. So I'm going to delete my orange. Don't want it to be on the tile map layer. I want it to be on another layer. So I'll select my background layer. Or you could always go and make another layer if you wanted a new layer. Maybe you could call that player. But the background layer would also work fine. And then we can click to place our character in there. And, well, let's play our game. Let's see, what does this look like? I don't think mine will animate just yet because my idle animation is just still. So I'll close my game. I want my character to be able to run around, jump on things, and animate nicely. To do that, I'm going to need to program it. So I will right click on my character there and add a script to it. Now I want it to be able to run left and right, and to be able to jump, and to be able to fall, and also to be able to play my animations. So first I want to detect when I press some keys to make my character move. And the blocks that we need for that are from events. If we scroll down under keyboard, we want when backspace delete is pressed. When backspace delete is pressed, we can drag that out and change that backspace to right arrow. When I press the right arrow on my keyboard, I want it to move to the right. So movement blocks are in physics. And I want this block under motion, set velocity x 0. Set velocity x 0, that means the speed. X means across, Y means up or down. I want the velocity x to be something like 200. You could try different numbers in there if you want. Now I can test this out. If I click play, we should be able to see when we press our right key, we'll move to the right. I'll need to save this script. I'll call it my player. And then I can move to the right, and we see the orange moves to the right. Very good. What about left and what about jumping? Well, no, that doesn't work because we need to add the blocks in. Okay, right click on that event block when right arrow is pressed and duplicate it. And do that twice. So we have, this one's going to be right, this one's going to be left, and this one's going to be up. So we'll change the second one to left arrow when left arrow is pressed. And what's the opposite of 200? Is it 0? Well, no, it's not. The opposite of 200 is actually minus 200. So we want minus 200 in there. And then to go up, well, we need to change the right arrow key to the up arrow key. And then the velocity is going to have to be a y velocity, a negative y velocity. And let's make that something like negative 500. Okay, so right, left, and up. Let's test that out now. Right, left, and up. And there we go. And our orange did not come back down. We need to give it gravity. So we want that to kick in straight away when the level starts. So we'll go to events and drag out when the level starts. And two things we need for gravity: the strength of it, and is it going to affect this object, yes or no. So from physics, under gravity, we want this block: set gravity x 0, make that a y, gravity y, because that's vertical. And then the number needs to be 800 or 1000. You could try any of those. It could even be something weak like 200, up to you. Does need to be a positive number to go down, because negative goes up. Remember, that makes us jump. And then from physics again, down the very bottom here, we've got set reacts to gravity. We want that one to be true, so drag that out. Set reacts to gravity, true. Good, so that's how strong it'll be, and that'll be whether or not it is affected by gravity. If we click play now, we should be able to run around, jump and fall, and that is a basic character controller. Very good. Now, how about those animations? Well, we spent all that time making those animations. Let's get those working. To do that, we want to go to our animation sidebar here and grab this block, play animation idle. And let's drag it out. Now, let's change the name of idle to run, to play our run animation. And we should run when we go right and left, shouldn't we? So we can drag that block in there, and then we might right click on run, make a duplicate of it, and put that in our left arrow as well. So right and left will run and give us those velocities. And what about jumping? Well, that's when we press the up key, right? So let's say, let's duplicate our play animation run and get that to play the animation jump. And that's when we press the the up arrow key. Okay. Let's test this out. See how it works. Play that once more. And right and left and jump. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, what about stopping? Well, we could say when we release our key, we could stop moving and stop playing the animation. That might work nicely. The way that we could do that is by duplicating our blocks, our left and right blocks. If we duplicate those, and in the copies, we want it to say when the key is released. So change that pressed to released in those two copies. And when you release the key, we want to set the velocity to 0, 0x velocity. And the animation we want to go back to is idle, I-D-L-E, idle. Okay. Let's play that now. It's a lot better, isn't it? Now, I'd like to be able to face left and right as well. And that might be one of the final things that we do. Okay, if you did have any questions about any Gamefroot stuff, feel free to chuck them in the chat now, just while we're wrapping this up. So we want to be able to flip left and right when we face left or we face right. The block that we need for this is from transform. We want set x scale of myself to 1. Set x scale of myself to 1. Drag that out for left pressed. And we also want a copy of it for when right pressed as well. Now, how does this scale block work? Well, the scale is like the width of the object there. I want it to, when I go, sorry, we don't want that in the release block. We want that in the left pressed block. So right arrow pressed means we're going to the right. That means we want our scale, our width, to be 1, which is like 100%. But our left arrow key is going to make us flip over to the left. So our width is going to change till it is -1. Our X scale will be -1. That'll flip us to the left. Okay, that should make us change directions. If we click play now, we should be able to run around and it should animate nicely. And that is how we can animate a character using Pascal to create simple pixel animations and using Gamefroot to create a game out of them. Now you could go and expand this little game world that you've made by following some more of our tutorials. I'm going to close out of my script and save my game. File, save game, and I'll call that my pixel animation. And the tutorials that you could use to continue this game are available inside Gamefroot if you go to tutorials. And then for this kind of a game, you're probably going to want to look at platformer tutorials, which are in intermediate resources. And you can find those in Platformer 101, 102, and 103. All kinds of cool platform game mechanics in there. And you can see we've covered a bunch just then, getting our controls working. We've got our running animation and that kind of thing working, but there's heaps more you could go and do for a game like this. So hopefully you've learned something in this stream, and hopefully you go and make some cool animations. Well, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks for tuning